Alright, so the new Smash Bros. Looks great despite its really terrible title. It looks slick and colourful, and the character roster is better than ever. It's got Mega Man and Sonic and Greninja. But there's still one thing that bothers me about it. It's the one blot in an otherwise pristine notebook. The one pimple in an otherwise numinous arse. It's the one... you've read the title already? Yeah, I'm talking about Samus. You see, I love Metroid more than I love my dearest friends. It's subtle and atmospheric with solid controls and great level designs and an amazing heroine. I'm serious, if you don't love Samus, you're probably really crap. The problem is that Samus has become more and more sexualised of late, and Smash Bros. 4 doesn't really look set to be fixing that. I know this is a rather trite subject at this point, but you haven't heard it yet in my annoying voice. So just strap in your buckle belts, ladies and gentlemen, and prepare yourself for some Scots punter talking at length about a subject he's altogether too invested in. Okay, so a good place to begin, I feel, is with Samus' portrayal in previous Metroid games. This way we have a cohesive idea of the character with which to contrast her recent portrayal. Between 1986, which was Metroid's release, and 2007, which was Metroid Prime 3 Corruption's release, Samus' portrayal was pretty much spot on. For 21 years, the beginning and the end of the gender issue was that Samus was a woman. That was literally it. There was nothing else besides that. There was no subtext or implications there. Take the introduction to Metroid Prime 3 for example, where she's surrounded by her peers and superiors, and yet she's continually treated with respect.
Aren't you Samus Aran? It's an honor to meet you.
Even the normally cocky Rundas defers to her at one point.
If we don't make it to the top in time, we can kiss this planet goodbye.
Hey, relax. We're the good guys. Justice will prevail and all that stuff. Right, Samus?
Point is that Samus' sex wasn't even mentioned throughout the series because it didn't need to be. She was the best bounty hunter in the galaxy full stop, not best bounty hunter in the galaxy for a girl. I mean, that doesn't even make sense. As for her appearance, it's gone through a few changes but has always remained relatively consistent. I mean, there's an obvious difference between this Super Metroid cross-section and the ending of Metroid Prime 2 for example, but they both communicate an athletic character in different ways. Here, she's tall and muscular and is bulky enough to fit into this large suit. That makes sense, what with her being a genetically altered super athlete and all. In Metroid Prime 2 though, she's a lot more slight, but that's alright too. Often, a less bulky figure is used to communicate a more acrobatic character. The important thing here is that she doesn't have exaggerated proportions in terms of all that junk up in her trunk. In short, her design makes a lot of sense. And that's an important point. Zero Suit Samus in and of herself is not a problem. It's nice that they have a definitive design for Samus when she's not in the power suit, and the sexy suit, for lack of a better phrase, has been a part of the series since Metroid 1's Leotard. For those not in the know, performing well enough in a Metroid game will earn the player a brief still of Samus, usually in a bikini or her underwear. This is absolutely not sexualised though. Samus takes off her power suit and congratulates the player on a job well done. She doesn't coo invitingly or shove her assets in your face, she just stands confidently. Honestly, it always seemed to me like she was ready to relax after a long and difficult mission. The point being that Samus being sexy is not a problem. It's when it's exaggerated and pandering that it becomes a problem. I know, here it's mind-blowing. To make an example at this point, take this sequence from Metroid Zero mission where Samus is stranded in Zebes in nothing but her Zero suit. Here, we get a low-angle shot, if you know what I'm saying. You can see her bum. That was a joke. You do get an R shot, and not even a particularly egregious one, but you get an R shot while Samus is cementing just how cool she is. Upon being stranded, she infiltrates a space pirate mothership, reclaims her suit, and then blows it up from the inside. Here, she's proving that she doesn't need the power suit to deal with tricky situations. And while she does look sexy, you know, for a cartoon, it isn't sexualised. It isn't at all exaggerated or pandering. The main things to take away from this sequence are her actions and her decisions, as she proves that it's not just the power suit that makes her cool. No, a large part of what makes Samus awesome, and this might just blow your mind, is her personality. And don't give me any of that blank slate pish. So what, does Metroid Fusion just not exist then? Even ignoring that game, just because a character doesn't spend 2 hours expositing information at you, doesn't mean that she has no personality. You can tell an awful lot about Samus through her actions, her body language, and her interactions with the other characters. She's confident, focused, and selfless. She's also quite spiritual. She voices irrational fears, and readily accepts the existence of ghosts. Samus also evidently believes in the soul. Yeah, she's enigmatic and she's rather reserved, but this is storytelling 101. You show, don't tell. I mean, can you imagine what that would be like? A Metroid game with no subtlety, where it explained everything in excruciating detail. I mean, that would just be really Yeah, alright, the punchline is Metroid Other M. I mean, I was gonna build up to it, but I can't be bothered anymore. It's Other M, that's what we're talking about here. Now, this isn't going to be a full review of the game, fortunately, for both of us. That would just be distracting from the point. Look, the skinny is, I hate Other M, and Samus's portrayal, while it's not the main factor, is a huge contributor to that. And of course, that's the part I'm going to be focusing on. So, to kick us off here, firstly, Samus's measurements have been increased. Her proportions have been scaled up. Her figure has been enhanced. In layman's terms, her breasts and bottom have been made fatter, her legs have been made longer, and she's been given a beauty mark out of nowhere. Here she is after being told that, fortunately, it's not melanoma. Check your moles, folks. Samus is also wearing skin-tight latex, because seriously, her Zero suit was never that shiny before. And she's also wearing high heels. What? Seriously? Really? Yeah, okay. Yeah, she's, like, it's difficult to walk in high heels. Never mind run and flip and fight off alien invasions. In fact, while we're on that subject, actually, surely Samus would want to be as skinny as possible. You know, considering that her trademark move is literally to roll into a tiny little ball. So, that's dumb. But what's even more dumb is that Other M frequently contrives reasons for Samus' suit to fall off. The camera is in on this act as well. Often, even during dramatic sequences, it will find a way to zoom in and linger on her curves. Here's Adam having a conversation with Samus' tightly packed buttocks. Here's the beginning still of their final farewell. This is undeniably supposed to be a dramatic scene, but these camera angles are working against it. In fact, here's a pop quiz. Which version of Samus do you think is more sexualized? This version from Super Metroid where she's wearing less clothing, or this version from Metroid Other M where she's wearing more clothing? The answer that I want is of course the one from Other M, because while Samus is wearing less clothing in the Super Metroid version, she isn't pandering by stumbling and swooning over cool guy Adam Malkovich. I hope I've managed to mark out the difference between the two. Anyway, back to Samus' suit falling off. Apparently the suit's been changed so that it's based on Samus' concentration. When she loses concentration, the suit begins to disappear. It's a very literal interpretation of the death sequences in the 2D games, and it's basically just an excuse to make it easier for the writers to get her in and out of her clothes. Even dumber though, it completely contradicts the previous Metroid games. In Fusion, the whole reason Samus looks the way that she does is because the Galactic Federation couldn't take her suit off while she was in a coma. I don't know about you, I'm not particularly great at concentrating when I'm literally unconscious. Also, if it were just based in concentration, then why didn't she just concentrate a wee bit during Zero Mission? She has the Zero suit on. The dumbest thing of all though is that Samus spends the whole game taking orders from an all-male military squadron who call her Lady or Princess. Again, seriously? Yeah, that's a real thing that happens. She's forbidden from even defending herself without being ordered to. I know that's a laboured point, but it's phenomenally stupid. Equally as stupid though is the fact that the previously unflappable Samus keeps bringing up how inadequate she feels as a woman. Her defiance in the Galactic Federation was based in the fact that she was a woman, and apparently her whole relationship with the squadron centres around this fact as well. I deliberately use the word dumb to describe these sequences as that's what it is. It isn't stupid through lack of intelligence or ignorance. It's stupid in order to simplify the franchise and make it appeal to a lowest common denominator. It is literally dumbed down. And to condense all of these points into one neat little ball, in Other M, Samus was sexualized. She's jelly on a plate in order to give you wowzers in your trousers. Look at those knockers! Pick up our game! What these guys fail to realise though is that with a quick Google search you could probably find images of birthday suit Samus. They have been bested. Okay, so, right, Samus was sexualised in Other M. Most of you probably already knew that coming into this video. Plus, it was like 4 years ago now, so what's my point? Well, allow me to explain. Most of the Metroid assets in Super Smash Bros. 4 are taken from Other M, and it seems like a lot of its mentality is rubbed off as well. Samus is the most sexualised she's ever been. Her waist has gotten even thinner, giving her an exaggerated hourglass figure. They've highlighted this through dark stripes in the Zero suit. These stripes lovingly hug the contours of her body and make it easy to trace her figure from any angle. Her high heels have become yet more noticeable, with a new colour scheme drawing attention to them. She also appears to be wearing makeup. There's a pink hue around her eyes that appears to be mascara. Or eyeshadow. I don't know which is which, and I'm not looking it up either. What's more, Smash Bros. 4 keeps around Samus' skin-tight latex and gives her a whip. This is immediately evocative of a dominatrix, unless you're like 10, in which case don't look that up. I know that the whip and the skin-tight latex were in Brawl as well, and I think that Samus' poor portrayal has its roots in that game. Take Samus' introduction in the Subspace Emissary for example. Here the camera is clearly focused on her lady parts. Like I say, I think that Samus' poor portrayal has its roots in Brawl, but as I've addressed all these points with regards to Super Smash Bros. 4 anyway, I think it would be rather redundant to repeat them. On a related note, if you're about to bring up the argument that men are often in skin-tight latex as well in the media, please understand that it doesn't hold very much water. In short, the things that men find cool, women often don't find sexy. Take Thor and Loki for example. Thor is more muscular and handsome and is just a pretty rad guy in general, and yet Loki, despite being a whiny little spud, seems to get all the girls. Anyway, that's enough about DC, back to Samus. Look, it doesn't matter how they justify the heels and the whip and the other things, the priority here is blatantly sexualization. Put it this way, I doubt they thought Samus needs rocket boots and then organically concluded that the high heels were the best design decision for this. No. They just went, let's give her high heels and tell everybody they're rocket shoes. That's a good enough excuse. Most of our audience are 6 years old. Thinking about it, why would she even need rocket shoes? I mean, if Marth, for example, can now do all these acrobatic feats, then surely as a genetically enhanced super athlete, Samus should be able to as well. Plus, it's a party game that Mario's in, so I think all realism went out the window quite some time ago. That was rhetorical, by the way. Samus doesn't need rocket shoes, they just wanted to give her high heels. She doesn't need makeup, she's off for a fight and frequently wears a full face helmet. They are contriving reasons to accentuate her sexuality. This is seen in the screenshots as well. Look at this butt. Look at them boobs. Look at the... of those rabbit ears. I mean, come on guys, I know it's the bunny hood, but they could have chosen literally any other item. In fact, speaking of screenshots, there's something else I want to bring up. There was a post on Tumblr that I'd like to address. Here's the link to it, but if you can't be bothered clicking that link and pausing the video and everything, here's the gist. Sakurai recently posted in the Miiverse about how proud he was of this screenshot where Samus literally dislocates her shoulder so her breasts are on full display at all times. Somebody called him out in this, but then there was a rebuttal to that on the basis that all Smash characters are deformed and they're all following a strong line of movement. That's a good point, but these characters are all conveying quick motion. Samus is relatively still. What's more, it'd be really easy to preserve the line of movement while not breaking Samus's bones, like so. So why isn't her pose like this? Because they want her tits on display as much as possible. If they did it my way, her breasts would be obscured by her shoulder. So they dislocated it. And so proud were they of this dislocation, this literally broken animation, that they advertised it publicly. And this is the problem. We can argue the toss all day about these as isolated incidents. And sure, I'd probably even acquiesce in a few points if they could be mistakes or unlucky coincidences. But these aren't isolated incidents. Everything I've noted so far is happening alongside everything else. When every signal points to Samus being sexualised, maybe it simply means that she's being sexualised as much as it sucks to admit it. I mean, I don't want to be making this video. I don't want to be forced to admit that Samus has been reduced to this, but there you go. And I'd place a penny to a pound on the developers being aware of this fact. You have to understand there will be multiple iterations of a character design and multiple people that will have to approve that character design before it is finalised. And if I can spot it this easily, I can guarantee that the industry professionals that designed her will be aware of this fact as well. They know what they're doing. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind that Samus's current portrayal is deliberately designed to titillate. So now that I've hammered that point home as far as I can, I think I've presented a fairly tight case that Samus is being sexualised. The next question is, so what? Why is that a problem? Well, it's objectification. Now, a preface, I am no good at gender theory. I mean, seriously, I'm really bloody bad at gender theory. I have no intention of doing this subject justice, as there'll be hundreds of people out there on the internet that could do a better job than me. So instead, I'm just going to use Wikipedia. Objectification is treating a person as a thing without regard to their dignity. In Samus's case, this means that she's not treated as a character. It's sex appeal first, character second, if ever. I'll say it again, there's nothing wrong with being sexy, but it's when it's egregious and pandering that it's a problem. I believe the phrase is sexual being versus sexualised object, is that correct? Like I say, I just don't have a clue. So to bring it down to my idiot child level, Samus's sex appeal has to be a facet of a more complex character. Recently, it feels more like the single-minded focus. They're more concerned with TNA than they are with creating a likeable character. So, to back up a bit. Other M made a super sexy Samus, and Smash Bros is choosing to celebrate that. Everything from the character design to the level choice has been taken from Other M. In effect, they're choosing Other M to represent the Metroid franchise. My questions are, why, and what does this mean for the franchise going forward? To answer the first question, I don't have any idea. I have no clue. Even ignoring my personal distaste for the game, I have no idea why Nintendo would choose it to celebrate Metroid. According to VGCharts.com, Other M is the 8th best-selling game out of 11, and even then, Prime Trilogy had an extremely limited run. What's more, according to Metacritic, it's the second lowest rated game in the series, above only Metroid 2, which is flippin' travesty. Metroid 2 is not that bad. That's another video. Why not represent the series with, I don't know, Metroid Prime? It's the highest rated game of the GameCube's era, it's tied for the second highest rated game of all time, and it's the best selling game in the Metroid franchise. The only thing that Other M has over the other games in the series is that it was released most recently. But if that was relevant, then why are Link and Zelda still in their Twilight Princess incarnations? The only reason I can think of is that they see Other M as a template for the series. That they see it as an exemplary game, the one that showcases Metroid's strengths, the one that newcomers ought to play to get to grips with the series. And my worry is, if Metroid covets Other M the way Smash Bros 4 does, then we're going to be seeing less of Metroid's great gameplay, atmosphere and character, and more quick-time events and cutscenes where Samus' suit falls off. And I think that'd be a shame. See, the single-minded focus and sex appeal damages both the character and the series' reputation. It dehumanises Samus, and it makes the world that surrounds her that much less interesting. What's more, it's just really disappointing to see such a strong character reduced to this level. I used to be able to recommend Metroid as a series that didn't cheaply exploit its female protagonist. Now I have to keep adding clauses to that. Just steer clear of Other M and Smash Bros. Don't type Samus into Google. Unfortunately, this is a fairly frequent phenomenon with games. And I do find it embarrassing that one of my favourite pastimes is so adolescent. I mean, look, I get it. Boobs are great, I'm with you on that one. I have that booty fever, as they say. Nobody says that. But that can't be all we want from female characters. If we want video games to truly evolve as a medium, this has to change. We can't have it both ways. We can't be this pervasively juvenile and then, without a trace of irony, become offended when someone challenges games as art. Anyway, that's a whole other tangent. Again, I'm excited for Smash. My problems here won't affect the gameplay, that's still recognisably Samus, and I'm still going to be playing as her. But I think it's important to acknowledge that Samus's portrayal is a problem, even if it's not a problem that will personally or directly affect your playing experience. As for Metroid, we'll have to wait and see. But speaking as a fan, I don't want this. I don't want a simple lowest common denominator sexual fantasy, that's what porn is for. I want an intricate, intriguing sci-fi adventure with great atmosphere and character. You know, like every other Metroid game. At the very least, don't give any more of your properties to Team Ninja. God damn it. Thanks for watching everybody, I've been Shay. If you enjoyed this video, I would really appreciate a like and a share. If you have anything to add, you know how YouTube works, you probably know where the comment box is. I have a couple more of these videos planned, but this one took a lot longer than I expected it to, and it's just a case of if and when I'm going to get around to them. But in the meantime, if you want to see my ramblings about games in a less structured format, my friend Squidgy Buffalo and I have a Let's Play channel called Game Pie, which you can find here. Cheers!